So here is something that's going to hit a little too close to home for some of you. You just sent a text. Simple text. Hey, how's your day going? And now you're staring at your phone, refreshing, checking, creating entire narratives in your head about what their silence means. Does the fact that they didn't respond in 30 seconds mean they're losing interest? Did you say something wrong? And suddenly that innocent little text has turned into this monster of anxiety that's eating you alive. Stay with me on this, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about texting. It's about a pattern that's been running your relationships your entire life, and you didn't even know it had a name. About 3 years ago, I sent a text to someone I was dating. Just hope you're having a good day. With a smiley face. Harmless, right? And then nothing. For 2 hours. Nothing. And in those 2 hours, I convinced myself the relationship was over. I replayed our last conversation 17 times looking for what I did wrong. I checked if they were active on social media. I drafted 4 different follow-up texts and deleted them all. The message. I finally got back. Thanks. Just been slammed at work. About to grab lunch. 2 hours of torture. Over nothing. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because that pattern, that spiral of anxiety over a text message, isn't actually about the text at all. It's a window into something much deeper. Something psychologists call anxious attachment. And once you understand it, you're going to see it everywhere in your life. But here's what nobody tells you. Anxious attachment isn't your fault. It's not you being crazy or too much. It's actually your nervous system doing exactly what it was wired to do, based on your earliest experiences with love and connection. Your brain learned how relationships work when you were too young to even remember. And sometimes that programming has a few bugs in it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but I'm an adult. Why would something from childhood affect how I react to text messages now? And that's exactly the question that's going to unlock everything for you. Because what's happening when you overthink that text isn't rational. It's primal. It's your attachment system firing off alarm bells. That's something you need for survival. Connection might be at risk. Let me break this down. When you were a kid, you learned whether the people who were supposed to care for you were reliable. Could you count on them when you needed them? Or was it unpredictable? Sometimes they were there, sometimes they weren't. And here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. If you experienced that inconsistency, your developing brain made a survival decision. It decided, I need to stay hypervigilant about connection because I and trust it to be there when I need it. Fast forward to now. You send a text, and somewhere deep in your nervous system, that old programming kicks in. Are they going to respond, or are they going to disappear? And suddenly you're not just waiting for a text back. You're a kid again, wondering if the person you depend on is going to show up for you. But hold on, because what I'm about to tell you changes everything. That overthinking, that constant checking, that spiral of worst-case scenarios. That's not weakness. That's actually your brain trying to protect you. It's what psychologists call protest behavior. Your attachment system is screaming, hey, this connection might be in danger. It's trying to keep you safe. The problem is, that protection system is outdated. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. The alarm is working exactly as designed, but it's way too sensitive for the actual threat level. Think about something for a second. When was the last time you sent a text and didn't think about it again until you happened to see a response? When was the last time you could just send a message and go about your day with complete confidence that the other person's response time had nothing to do with their feelings about you? If you're sitting there thinking, never, you're not alone. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think the solution is to just stop overthinking or be more secure. Like you can just willpower your way out of an attachment pattern that's been hardwired into your nervous system for decades. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Anxious attachment doesn't just make you overthink texts. Maybe you're the person who always initiates plans. Maybe you're hyper-aware of any shift in someone's tone. Maybe you find yourself giving more in relationships than you receive. Maybe you're constantly seeking reassurance, even though every time you get it, it only satisfies you for about 15 minutes before the anxiety creeps back in. And here's what's really happening. Your attachment system is stuck in this perpetual state of not enough. Not enough connection. Not enough certainty. Not enough proof that you matter. So you're constantly seeking evidence that you're valued, and a delayed text response becomes this massive threat because it feeds into your deepest fear that you're not important enough to prioritize. But here's where it gets really interesting. Anxious attachment doesn't just affect how you receive love. It completely warps how you give love to. Because when you're operating from that anxious place, you're not actually connecting with the other person. You're managing your own anxiety. Every text you send has this underlying agenda of, please prove to me that I am safe. And the other person can feel that. They might not be able to articulate it, but on some level, they can sense that your affection comes with strings attached. It's not freely given. It's strategic. It's designed to elicit a specific response that will calm your nervous system down. Think about it this way. Imagine someone giving you a gift, but the whole time they're watching your face intensely to make sure you react the right way. That gift stops feeling like a gift, doesn't it? It feels like a test. And that's what anxious attachment does. It turns your expressions of love into tests that the other person didn't even know they were taking. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is fascinating, but what do I actually do about it? And I'm going to get there. But first, you need to understand something crucial that's going to save you years of frustration. Your anxious attachment isn't going to go away by finding the right person. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. Because there's this fantasy that lives in the anxious attachment brain. The fantasy that if you just find someone who's consistent enough, available enough, reassuring enough, then you'll finally feel secure. Then you won't have to overthink texts anymore. But here's what actually happens. Even when someone is being perfectly consistent, even when they're texting back quickly, even when they're showing up for you in every way, there's still this voice in your head going, but for how long? When are they going to realize I'm too much? Because anxious attachment isn't about the other person's behavior. It's about your internal working model of relationships. It is about the story your nervous system is telling about what love means and what you have to do to keep it. And if you're re-getting value from this, and you're restarting to see yourself in what I'm describing, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because we're about to go even deeper. So here's the shift that needs to happen. The overthinking, the anxiety, the constant checking, all of that is your system trying to control the uncontrollable. You're trying to manage another person's feelings and availability because somewhere, deep down, you learned that your safety depends on it. But here's what's really wild. The more you try to control connection through monitoring and overthinking, the less actual connection you experience. Because real intimacy doesn't come from certainty. It comes from being willing to be uncertain and staying present anyway. Let me tell you about someone I worked with. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah would spend hours analyzing text conversations. She had a whole system. She'd look at response times, punctuation patterns, whether someone used emojis or not. She could write a dissertation on what it meant when someone sent OK versus K. But here's what was actually happening. She was so busy analyzing the texts that she never actually enjoyed the relationship. Every moment of connection was filtered through this lens of, is this real? Is this going to last? She was physically present, but psychologically somewhere in the future, trying to predict and prevent pain. And the cruel irony is, her anxious behaviors started pushing people away. Not because she was too much, but because the energy of constant anxiety is exhausting. The other person starts feeling like they can never do enough to make her feel secure. And slowly, they start pulling back, which confirms her worst fears, which makes her more anxious. It's a vicious cycle. Now, here's the part that nobody tells you. That analysis, it's not actually trying to connect with the other person. It's trying to avoid feeling a specific feeling. And that feeling is vulnerability. Because vulnerability means letting go of control. It means sending a text and not checking for a response. It means accepting that you cannot manage another person's feelings about you. It means sitting with the discomfort of not knowing. And that feels terrifying, because the last time you were vulnerable like that, the last time you needed someone and couldn't control whether they'd be there, you got hurt. So you developed this strategy to never be that vulnerable again. You decided to stay one step ahead, to monitor, to adjust, to prove your worth, to earn security instead of just receiving it. But that strategy, as brilliant as it was for surviving, is now keeping you from the very thing you want most. Because love doesn't happen in the overthink. It happens in those moments when you let yourself just be, when you send a text and get on with your life, when you trust that someone has feelings for you or you and they so fragile that they'll disappear in the time it takes them to respond. And this is where it gets both harder and simpler. The work isn't about finding the right person or getting better at reading signs. The work is about learning to tolerate the feeling of uncertainty without trying to resolve it through control. Think about it like this. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, every time you send a text and then intentionally do something else, every time you catch yourself spiraling and choose to bring yourself back to the present, you're literally rewiring your nervous system. You're teaching your brain that uncertainty doesn't equal danger, that delayed responses don't mean abandonment. But here's the thing. This rewiring doesn't happen by understanding it intellectually. It happens by doing the thing that scares you over and over again until your nervous system learns a new truth. Now, I want to address something directly. Some of you are thinking, but what if my anxiety is justified? What if the person really is pulling away? And that's fair, because sometimes your anxiety is picking up on real distance. Anxious attachment doesn't mean you're always wrong about relationship dynamics. But here's what you need to understand. Even when your anxiety is picking up on something real, the anxious response still doesn't help you. Overthinking the text doesn't give you useful information. Spiraling doesn't prepare you for anything. What it does is keep you stuck in a reactive state where you can't actually assess the situation clearly. When you're in that anxious spiral, you can't tell the difference between real danger and perceived danger. Every little thing becomes a threat. Someone takes 3 hours to text back. Threat? They seem tired on a call. Threat? Your system is on high alert, which means it's not calibrated to respond appropriately. And this is why the work of becoming more secure isn't about ignoring red flags. It is about learning to calm your system down enough that you can actually see what is in front of you, that you can distinguish between this person is showing me through consistent behavior that they were not available, versus this person took a while to text back and my anxiety is spiraling. Remember that story about my 2-hour spiral? Here's what happened after. I started doing something radical. Every time I sent a text to someone I cared about, I would immediately put my phone in another room. I would set a timer for 1 hour, and during that hour, I would do literally anything else. The first few times were absolutely excruciating. My brain was screaming at me. Check the phone. You need to know. It was like trying to quit a drug, but I kept doing it. And slowly, something shifted. My nervous system started learning that nothing catastrophic happened when I didn't monitor the texting. The relationship didn't end. The person didn't forget about me. And over time, that hour got easier. And here's what really changed. It wasn't just about texting. That practice of tolerating uncertainty started bleeding into other areas. I stopped overanalyzing every conversation. I stopped trying to read minds. I stopped shapeshifting to be what I thought someone wanted. I started just existing in relationships, being myself. But this is where it gets both beautiful and challenging. Becoming more secure doesn't mean you never feel anxious. It means you develop the ability to notice when you re-end that pattern and choose a different response. You see the spiral starting, and instead of going down it, you pause. You breathe. You remind yourself what's actually happening versus what your anxiety is telling you. And this is the part that's going to matter most. The goal isn't to become someone who doesn't care. The goal is to learn that your worth and your safety depend on managing someone else's behavior. That you can want connection while also knowing you're okay without constant reassurance. Because here's the truth that's going to set you free. People who are right for you don't want you to be anxious. They don't want you overthinking their texts. They want you to be present. They want to know the real you, not the version that's constantly adjusting to keep them close. And when you stop trying so hard to hold on to connection through control, you create space for real connection to happen. The kind that doesn't require monitoring, the kind that doesn't need constant proof, the kind that just is. So if you're someone who overthinks texts, who checks their phone compulsively, who creates entire stories about what someone's silence means. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're just running old programming that doesn't serve you anymore. And the beautiful thing is that you can write new programs. It starts with awareness, with recognizing the pattern, with seeing that the overthinking isn't helping you feel more secure. And then it continues with practice, with making small choices every day to respond differently to that anxiety, with learning to sit with uncertainty. Because that's the real fear underneath all of this, isn't it? That if you're not constantly vigilant, constantly managing, you'll be left. You'll be alone. You'll be too much or not enough. But here's what I need you to understand. The people who are going to leave, they're going to leave whether you overthink their texts or not. And the people who are going to stay, they're going to stay even when you're not perfect or constantly available. Your anxious attachment is trying to protect you from pain, but is actually keeping you from experiencing the kind of love that doesn't require protection. The kind that's spacious enough for both people to be fully themselves. The kind where a delayed text is just a delayed text, not a referendum on your worthiness. So, the next time you send a text and feel that familiar anxiety rising, pause. Notice it. Name it. Oh, there's my attachment system trying to keep me safe. And then choose. Choose to put the phone down. Choose to trust. Choose to believe that your value doesn't depend on how quickly someone responds. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to slip back into old patterns. And that's okay. This isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's about slowly teaching your nervous system a new way of being in relationship. One text, one moment, one choice at a time. And I promise you, on the other side of this work, there is a version of you who can send a text and genuinely not think about it again until you see a response. Who can trust without controlling. Who can love without losing themselves. That version of you. They're already there, waiting. You just have to stop overthinking long enough to meet them.